Chapter 47, Escape from Molly Weasley. Disclaimer: I do not advocate thinking up plans to escape Molly Weasley. No plan survives first contact with the enemy. It's best to just wing it. Escape from Molly Weasley. Hey Ron, Hermione called out as she approached her friend. Have you seen Harry? Yeah, Ron said. The boy spent a few seconds looking around before he found his target. He's over there talking with Henchgerald. Oh, Hermione said quietly. He's been spending a lot of time around her since we got here. Do you think that he's avoiding us? She's a pretty girl, Ron replied with a smile. Can't blame Harry for noticing that, I guess, Hermione said slowly, but it's like he changed when he got here, even more than he did after summer. We all changed a bit when we came here, Ron rebutted. You keep getting stunned into silence every time someone tells you more about Mr. Black. Hannah's been hovering around my mum because she wants to make sure she makes a good impression. Mum won't go more than a few feet away from Percy and Penny, and I haven't strayed far from the food. There are foods here that I've never even heard of. I'm just worried about him, Hermione said after a moment of though. I'm worried about you too. You'll be too fat to climb the stairs to your dorm if you don't let up on the food. Hannah says that she likes a man that isn't too thin, Ron said with a grin. You've never been too thin, Hermione teased. And don't talk with your mouth full, it's disgusting. You're just jealous that I can multitask, Ron said quickly. Some of us have the brain power to do two things at once, and I'm afraid that you're not one of them. Eating and talking at the same time is not multitasking, Hermione said as her face twisted into a grin. Multitasking is doing two things at once, isn't it? Ron asked slyly. Yeah, but talking and eating are two different things, right? Ron interrupted. Well, yes, but so by definition that's multitasking, Ron finished smugly. Must be hard for you to lose all these arguments to me. Why you? Hermione glared. Couldn't think up a good response, Ron said with a grin. Looks like the professor decided to join Harry and Henchgerald. Hermione changed the subject. Guess he didn't want Harry moving in on his girl, Ron said with a grin. I think Harry can take the little guy. I don't think the professor and Henchgerald are dating, Hermione said sharply. And even if they were, I'm sure that the professor would be mature enough to allow Henchgerald to talk to other people without getting jealous. Set your sights on someone else, Ron said quickly. The professor's too old for you. That isn't what I meant, Hermione said with a frown. And you know it. Stop trying to lure me into another argument, okay? Ron agreed with a shrug. Then if you want my opinion, I would guess that Harry is trying to get a meeting with Mr. Black so that he can get some new stuff for the day. That does sound like something Harry would do, Hermione said slowly, and you'd have been able to figure that out if you'd stop worrying about Harry being different and accept the fact that people change, Ron teased. Just accept the fact that he's growing up and you'll be much happier, I suppose, Hermione said. Across the room, Harry continued his conversation with the professor and Henchgerald. I completed those ones you asked about. The professor slipped Harry a large package, bright orange, pink, and other pastel colors. Great, Harry said enthusiastically. And you're sure that no one can listen in on this conversation? Yup, Henchgerald replied. We've been developing new spells. This one is based on some of those old Russian ones. If anyone listens, they'll hear us talking about defense techniques, but they won't remember any specifics. You can tailor it to any situation, the professor added. You could make it a conversation about politics, sports, or anything else that might be commonly overheard, and the best part is that any listeners won't pay it the least amount of attention. They'll dismiss it as unimportant and move on. Henchgerald said proudly. That last part took a solid week to get right. You guys really outdid yourselves on that one, Harry said in amazement. We try, Henchgerald replied modestly. Do you have any other ideas for devices? The professor got straight to the point. Just one, Harry said slowly. I was wondering if a device that mixed potions would be possible to make. My idea was that you would drop in the ingredients and the device would do all the work. Maybe, Henchgerald said slowly. It wouldn't be able to do some of the more complex potions and the quality wouldn't be as high, but it might be possible. Would it be possible to make it into a flask? Harry said with a grin. Or failing that, could you make a flask that could hold potions in the best way that they need to be stored? It would have hot charms for potions that are best hot and so on. Maybe, the professor said with a thoughtful grin. What do you think, Henchgerald? I think the hardest thing would be a tricky bit of spell work to make the flask recognize the potion that you filled it with, but it shouldn't be a problem after that, Henchgerald said. We might be able to get something like that. Mix some of the simpler potions. It'd be hard to get it into something that small. Would it be possible to make your vitamin potions in it? Harry asked hopefully. They're good and I miss them. That's another idea, Henchgerald mused. A flask that will mix up drinks that would be much simpler to make, might have more of a market too, Harry agreed. Sounds interesting anyway, the professor added. I think it'd be fun to make. Great, Harry said with a grin. Henchgerald tells me that the various law enforcement agencies want to turn this place into a school. Yes, the professor agreed. I think it may be a good thing for us. What are your thoughts on the matter? I think it could be a good thing, Harry said. Are we sure that we can do this without letting them know any more than we have to? I think I understood that. Henchgerald's eyes crossed. And yes, they'll only learn what we want them to learn about us. Great, Harry said with growing enthusiasm. See if we can get Moody to teach a few classes, and be sure to record anything that gets taught. Record, the professor asked. It would be nice to have a library of classes taught by various people, Harry explained. Let's say for example that Moody gives a class on dueling that I can't go to for one reason or another. If we have a recording then I can watch it in my own time. I think I have a few ideas for how this might work, Henchgerald said. What do you think, Professor? I also have a few ideas, the professor said with a nod, and some of them involve having to build specialized classrooms that'll keep the architect happy, Harry murmured. Looks like things are winding down. Might be a good idea to drift back to the group you came with, Henchgerald suggested, else they'll start to wonder why you're spending so much time with us. I suppose, Harry agreed. You guys take care, don't hesitate to call me if you need me for some reason. We won't, the professor promised. Are you sure you want to go back to school? Henchgerald asked. You don't seem like you like it very much and I'm sure that you're not learning much that you don't know. Good point, Harry sighed. The world moved and Hogwarts stayed in the same place. I'm gonna try to stick it out for a little longer. Maybe things will get better, okay? Henchgerald agreed. But don't forget that you have a home here and don't forget that I can teach you potions better than anyone at that school of yours. I am fairly good with charms, the professor added, and I'm sure that it would be possible to learn from the others also. Thanks guys, Harry said with a tight smile. I'll see you later. Goodbye my friend. The professor took his hand. Bye Harry, Henchgerald said sadly. We'll miss you. I'll miss you guys too, Harry said with a tight smile. Well, I guess I'd better get back to being Harry Potter. Harry took a deep breath and then forced his features into impassivity. Giving one last smile to his friends, he turned and walked back into the crowd. Looks like Harry's finished his conversation, Ron said with a grin. Think we should go talk to him? Hermione asked nervously. I am staying with the food, Ron said quickly, but you can feel free to leave if you want. Thanks Ron, Hermione replied. It was hard but the girl managed to force herself not to mention her friend's eating habits. Ignoring Ron's snicker, Hermione walked across the room to meet with her other best friend. Hey Harry. Hello Hermione, Harry replied. How are you enjoying the party? It's fascinating to have a chance to learn more about Mr. Black, Hermione said quickly. I agree, Harry said with a smirk. The more I learn about the exploits of the mysterious Mr. Black, the more shocked I am that any of them could have ever happened. Are you feeling better? Hermione asked suddenly. Much, Harry agreed. I saw you talking to the professor and Henchgerald, Hermione said slowly. Oh yes, Hermione confirmed. Are they as interesting as one might think? Yes they are, Harry agreed. They are very unique people. Do you think they could help us with the defense group? Hermione tried another tact. Yes I do, Harry said. They gave me a few things that might be very useful. Like what? Hermione asked with a grin. Now they were getting somewhere. You'll see, Harry replied. I think you'll like it. Come on Harry, Hermione begged. Tell me now, are you feeling okay? Harry asked. You're acting a bit odd. Odd you say? Hermione asked nervously. Yes odd, Harry agreed. I guess it's all the excitement, Hermione said quickly. It's not every day you visit Mr. Black's home. No it isn't, Harry said calmly. So what did you get from Henchgerald and the professor? Hermione asked quickly. Like I said, Harry said with an amused grin. I'll tell you later, when Hermione demanded. Why don't we have a meeting when we get back? Harry suggested. I'll tell you then. Any plans for the meeting? Hermione turned serious. Some dueling practice, Harry replied. I might teach a couple new spells. Like what? Hermione asked. Like the Acme Charm, Harry said with a grin. The Acme Charm? Hermione asked with a raised eyebrow. Can't be 100% serious, Harry explained. and it is a useful charm. What is the Acme charm? Hermione asked after a moment of thought. I'm not surprised you don't know it, Harry said. It's a fairly new charm, and what does it do? Hermione asked patently. It drops an anvil on the target of the charm, Harry replied. I am told that they are working on an improved version of the charm that lets you choose to have an anvil, a piano, or a large weight with 10 tons written on the side. Why does that sound familiar? Hermione asked slowly. Bugs Bunny, Harry said. The creators of the charm got the idea from the old cartoons. It's a good idea, Hermione said after a moment of thought. I bet there are a lot of other things in the Muggle world that could inspire new spells, might be worth looking into. Harry agreed. Looks like things are winding down. Let's round up Ron and the others, Hermione suggested. I don't see any reason to stick around much longer. We won't have time to go to our afternoon classes, Harry teased. Doesn't matter how much you hurry, but we might have enough time to set up a meeting with the defense group, Hermione retorted. You're right, Harry said with a grin. Let's get everyone. Harry and Hermione walked over to the table where Ron was stuffing his cheeks. Ready to go? Ron asked before Harry had a chance to open his mouth. Yes we are, Hermione agreed. Just a sec. Ron raised his hand to wave at his girlfriend. Hannah'll be over in a second and she'll probably bring Ginny with her. Planned things out ahead of time did you? Harry asked with a grin. Had to, Ron replied. I'd have never been able to get close enough to talk with her during the party. I'm surprised Mum let you go. Hermione, I told her I had to look after Harry, Hermione said with a grin. Poor boy would have never gotten enough to eat without someone watching him. You what? Harry asked in shock. You should have seen the look on Ginny's face when I said that. Hermione's voice was tinged with laughter. It was a mixture of betrayal for being abandoned and anger at not having thought of that dodge first. But I'm not helpless, Harry sputtered. I can feed myself. You'll never get Mum to believe that, mate, Ron said sympathetically. Best just to go with it and look for a chance to escape when she's not paying attention to you. Thanks for waving at me, Ron, Hannah said with a grateful smile. Your mother's great but she can be a bit much sometimes. How could you abandon me like that? Ginny growled at Hermione. It was every girl for herself, Hermione replied with a grin. You'd have done the same to me. Yes I would have but I didn't have a chance, Ginny retorted. You owe me. I owe nothing, Hermione replied. You're just jealous I was smart enough to think of a way to escape first. Why don't we go to the portkey point? Harry suggested. We can discuss Ginny's jealousy later. You too, Harry, Ginny said in mock horror. What is this pick on Ginny Day? Yes it is, Hannah agreed. And it's pick on Ron Day next week. Don't you have one of those calendars the twins put out? They put out a calendar, Ginny said quickly. I am gonna kill those too. They put out more than just that, Hannah said with a grin. Cute birthmark. Birthmark? Ginny asked flatly. Yes, Hannah agreed. It's very cute. How do you know about my birthmark? Ginny asked in a dangerously calm voice. I think I'll let you work that out with the twins, Hannah said calmly. It wouldn't be proper to get involved in a family matter like this. Tell me, Ginny demanded. Well, Hannah began. If you're sure, I'm sure, Ginny agreed. Got ya, Hannah said with a grin. What? Ginny asked in shock. I got you, Hannah replied. It wasn't hard. One would think that you wouldn't have been so gullible after growing up with the twins. Gullible? Ginny growled. Apparently, Ron replied. And you were worried that a timid little Hufflepuff like Hannah would have problems in our family. Okay, Ginny conceded. I'm willing to admit that I'm not worried about her not being able to fit in. Great, Hannah enthused. Now I'm worried that she'll fit in too well. Ginny finished. I've got the portkey, Hermione said quickly. Everyone grab hold. And, for your information, to all the people that demanded faster updates, it really doesn't motivate me to put parts out faster. I'll update when the news hits and not sooner. I do not need 5 people a day messaging me to ask when I'm going to update or to tell me to update faster. It doesn't help. A make by VL100 Watch. Rorschach and JKR own the characters. If you have ever been in the 1632 group on Ben's Bow you know exactly what I am talking about. There are a whole bunch of inside jokes here. The pencil was urgently looking for his immediate boss, the professor. In his hand was a very important invitation. When he found the professor, and handed over the invitation, the pencil knew that he did a very important thing for Professor Fergus Farnsworth. The professor began to run through the halls of the Black Fortress yelling for Henchgerald at the top of his lungs. He held an opened letter in his hands that was obviously the source of his excitement. Henchgerald, we've been invited to talk about our Zeppelin, he exclaimed. Who invited us? Asked Henchgerald. The Society for the Prevention of Tesla Turbine-Powered Sten Gun-Armed Dirigibles is inviting us to their annual convention in Fairmont, West Virginia, he answered. Why are they asking us? Our Zeppelin is powered by Tesla turbines, Henschel asked. The professor went on to explain that they met members from this organization just before they took the Zeppelin out for the first time. Remember, they were that nice group with the pipes and baseball bats, and when we told them that the Zeppelin, was not a dirigible, and under no circumstance were we going to arm it with Sten guns, wished us good luck. Oh yes, said Henschel, they were a very nice group. Anyway, they looked at the official invitation, signed by Ursus T.R. Bear, the group president. The group asked if they could tour the Zeppelin to see the latest construction technology in lighter-than-air aircraft. They had already made arrangements for the Zeppelin to dock at the Round Barn in Mannington, West Virginia, a small town a few miles from the hotel that was the convention site.